Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm Martine Brisson, and today I'm with Gabriela Montano. Hope I've pronounced it right. And Gabriela has dedicated her entire life, professional life, to help clients discover the well-being, natural geniuses, and that resides in the centers of every human being. Welcome, Gabriela.
Thank you, Martine. Bonjour.
Buenos dias.
Buenos días.
And yeah, because she works in Spanish and in English. And well, I will ask you in my little message of hope series the same question I've been asking everyone, and is that having that understanding, the inside out understanding, how does that help you navigate either the COVID-19 that we're getting out of at the moment, or just stressful events in general?
I think that the cornerstone gift from this understanding within the context of stress or difficult situations or even pandemics that sustains me and that has sustained me in my life in these last 20 whatever years. Not that I'm 20, I'm not 20, I'm 50, but the 20 years that I've been, working and sharing the principles and learning about it, it's been that whatever life presents, I have the capacity to transcend. Whatever mood I'm in, will lift. However it is that I'm seeing life at the moment will transform. Understanding that has really allowed my soul to rest, and my spirit to lean on something that is never changing. So it's interesting, as life obviously changes a lot, right? And just when you think life's not going to change anymore, right? Like, what else could happen? Life shows up. It's just so nice for me to turn my attention to what's permanent and sustaining. So I love that. That has been the most fantastic thing, not having to worry about changing my mood, not having to worry about feeling upset, nervous, unsure, frightened. It's just so nice because I studied clinical psychology. And when I was studying that, I learned that if there was an issue with my feeling state, it needed to be worked on. I learned, right? And that's a lot of work because, feeling state obviously changes up and down, right? So when it's down, if that's your philosophy of life, then you have to come to work. So I love, I just love the fact that there is an essence in human beings that will see them through. And so, of course, through this time and in other times of my life that have been a bit traumatic or intense, resting on that understanding has been fantastic. So I could be upset. When this whole thing happened with the pandemic, at first I was very calm. And at that time, my husband was watching a lot of news. And then maybe a week and a half or sometime soon after we went into a shutdown here, I noticed I would wake up in the morning with a tongue ache. I know. I was like, what's this about? At first I thought it might be a sore coming up, or something like that. Then I realized that at night and during the day, I had moved from being really calm to being quite anxious. And one of the things that I do apparently is I press my tongue to the line of my gum and my teeth where that meet. And I go like this. Right? And so I discovered that. And so I was feeling quite anxious, probably a few days. And it was just nice, the gentleness that would come up for me of saying, just be careful with your tongue. And take lots of naps if you can. Drink lots of tea. So that's what the understanding has done for me. It has allowed me to take a breath of hope, and a breath of mostly hope in the midst of, lots of movement and chaos and strong feeling.
Beautiful. And as you were talking, full disclosure for everybody, Gabriela is one of my teachers. So, and I know the story about the Garlic Festival. And I think it's a beautiful story. So let me rephrase that. The fact that all this understanding helped you staying calm and staying calm for other people as well.
Yes. Would you like me to tell a little bit of that?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so I live in Gilroy, California. Gilroy is known as the garlic capital of the world, for those of you that don't know. And we have a festival every year, the last weekend in July. And this particular festival is put together to give resources to all the nonprofits and the agencies in the area for programs and, different groups of kids. And so everybody at one point or another has volunteered, and we like to participate. And it's quite big now. It's gotten really quite big. So in the weekend, I think there's like 250,000 people that come to the town, right? And it's a town of 60,000. So, it's a big deal. There's a lot of food. Of course, there's a lot of garlic. There's ice cream garlic for those of you that want to try it. I do not recommend it, but go ahead. And this last one in 2019, my husband and I decided not to go, and we were coming back home the last day where they were closing the festival. And I was going to go on a ride. And I was coming into where I live, into this area where I live. And I heard somebody say, there is an active shooting at the Garlic Festival. So I came in and I said, well, I'm still going to go on a bike ride because I wanted to go on a bike ride, but I'm not going to go towards the direction of the park. I'll go towards the other direction. And then as we got into the house, since we came in, a lot of ambulances and helicopters and police, right? Lots of police started coming towards the area. And my backyard just happens to look at the area where the park is. Not immediately, but we could see everything that was happening, kind of like in a giant TV. And we started getting into the news and the radio. My husband was a police officer. And we started getting information, and I, at one point, lost it completely. It was intense. It was super intense because we could see everything, and we were hearing everything. When I called a dear friend of mine, and I started melting, and I was like, oh my gosh, even now, I just can feel the intensity of that moment. And so then in the midst of that, we got a call from a friend of ours saying that one of their friends was stuck at the Garlic Festival. They were a vendor, and that they had been separated from their cars, separated from what they were selling, separating from everything. And they didn't know what to do. They were in shock because they actually saw the shooting. Could we go get him? And so I was in the middle of my meltdown when my husband came out and said, hey, a friend called, I'm going to go get these people, right? And I was like, oh, I don't think that's a good idea, right? So anyway, he goes, well, it looks like they're going to stay with us, at least for the night. And it was amazing how in the midst of the meltdown, all of a sudden there's like a sense of clarity and calmness that started invading me in a good way. And I told my friend, I said, you know, I remember gathering myself. It was very interesting because I was like in a meltdown. All of a sudden, my husband tells me this. I start feeling clarity and peace from the center of my being. And then I just knew I had to hang up and I had to move into action, you know, making beds and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And so I did, and these guys came in and they were in horrible shock. You know, understandably so, and right, they were bare feet. They had just literally I think they just gathered what they could in a panic. And there were 3 people, and one of the people was this young lady, and she was just in complete shock. And I sat with them, and you know, it was fascinating because I fell in love with them in that moment. And there was this, I mean, I had never seen her, Brianna. I had met the other 2 people one time, but Brianna, I had never met her. And there was all of a sudden this deep desire to hold her, you know, in space and just give her whatever she needed. So I just sat with them, and I just sat with them calmly. So it was fascinating, right? Because that experience really cemented even more my understanding of the essence of human beings and how in intense circumstances it shows up even when you're in the middle of a meltdown. So that, I tell you, that gave me such a, I don't know, a greater certainty. And so I've had a few situations in my life where, you know, in the midst of lots of chaos and in the midst where I'm feeling like I'm drowning or I'm like, whoa, melting literally, all of a sudden I start feeling this sense of clarity, hope, and well-being. And I love that I can count on that, and we all can count on that. And we don't have to necessarily work at it, but it's
universal.
Yes, but it is universal, and that it will show up even when you don't want it to. I wanted to continue to melt down because it felt so real, but it was like, okay, girl, you know. So anyway, that's a story.
One thought away of.
Yeah. One thought away.
It's a beautiful, and like I said, it's universal. So there's no exception, people. No exception. So yeah. So that's a beautiful song. And Gabriela also has this touch of seeing the divine in everyone. So that also helps. Beautiful story.
Yeah, it was, you know, it is a beautiful story. I know that it was in a super intense circumstance. But, you know, I was so amazed, Martine, at the feeling of love that I experienced for this young lady, it was immediate. You know, people used to say, like, you know, they used to talk about love at first sight.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know about that, you know. It seemed like a little, not for me. I've never experienced it. And I experienced it with her. There was an incredible connection of sisterhood, of you know, I remember giving her clothes, and it's like, you know, go take a bath, you know, here's a bottle of wine, you know, don't worry about anything. And she asked me, why are you doing this, you know? It was just so beautiful. It was just so beautiful to feel that connected to somebody that I had never met.
Are you still in touch?
She actually, you know, we've talked a couple of times. She invited us, her mother has a restaurant up north. She invited us to go up there. We have not been able to, but she sent us a beautiful gift for Christmas and a beautiful card. And I was honored to be with her during that time. I think what happened is that this essence, this universal essence, Martin, that you talked about, floated to the surface. And it was just very obvious that in that moment, that there was no separation, that, you know, even though we didn't know each other really, that there was something really profound that united her and I, but not only her and I, but that unites us as human beings, you know. And I think this is a time where, you know, the George Floyd situation happened. And I think now more than ever, we need to look at each other, all of us, right? All of us, and realize that we are human beings and we make mistakes. And how do we support each other? I think that's just essential during this time, because it's such a volatile time right now. You know, everybody feels quite intense. There is so much blame. There is so much, you know, it's just so intense, this moment. And I have personally really almost, again, gone up and down and gone into retreat and just really have seen that the most helpful thing that I can do is to look at all human beings. I love my, you know, like my fellow human beings, like my fellow brothers and sisters, and remember that, you know, we are connected deeply. Yep.
We're all one.
We're all one.
Thank you, Gabriela, for your time. And if people want to know more about you or get in touch with you, well, how can they do that?
Well, they can look at the link below in the video that I will be I will be giving to you. You can look at me. You can look at me. You can look for me. You can look at me, and you can look for me at Facebook. You know, Gabriela Maldonado-Montano. They can get in contact with you as well.
Okay.
Great.
Thank you, Gabriela.
Thank you so much. Thank you.